Hi, my name is SUTHAR. I am a business strategist and I will be your host. In this podcast, I'll be getting raw, real, and relentless whilst interviewing successful entrepreneurs from all over the world who specialize in different aspects of business. We'll cover the five main pillars of business, which are sales, marketing, finance, operations, and leadership, but not forgetting mindset, live and digital events, plus much, much more. You'll gain insights, tips and tricks, and discover jaw-dropping actionable steps that you'll be able to put in place for your business right away. Our next speaker is Esai Arasi. She is a social media maven who specializes in working with copywriters, gamification nerds, and is a founder of Elysian. She is from Chennai, India, and reads a book a week, guys. She has over a decade of experience in experimental learning, during which she has been researching and perfecting techniques that help people change their behavior and make that change last. Now she uses those same principles to help her clients turn their followers into clients. She specializes in working with introverted copywriters who do not want to dance on reels. Her easy content framework helps her create 2 weeks of high converting social media content from a 30-minute Zoom call, guys. She is here today to share with us how to stand out from our competition by dominating social media without being on the content hamster wheel. Please welcome Esai Arasi, founder of Elysian and a gamification specialist. Oh my God. We are so excited to have you on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, Kay. Thank you so much for the amazing intro. I love the things that you touched upon in the intro because those are the things that I want to talk about in this call, in this episode, because changing people's behavior, that's the core of everything that we do, right? So when I started training when I was 18, I instantly fell in love with the fact that it's all about interacting with people. It's all about understanding what people want. And
Right.
it's all about figuring out a way for them to get what you want. And that's the core of what we do, right?
Right.
Be it marketing, be it business. It's about figuring out how to give people what they want. So
Yes.
they will come to you and you can have a business that's profitable,
Awesome.
right?
Yes. And so, I mean, you've created this business, you've realized that what people need, changing people's behaviors. But what were you doing before you decided to start off this business that you've now created?
Right. So I started training part time during my MBA when I was 20.
Mhm.
I was doing that a little bit when I was 18 as well. But then I realized that training essentially is not about imparting information as we used to think. It's about helping people change behavior. And I spent the next decade, I worked as a corporate trainer. I worked with students as young as 6 years old,
Mhm.
from senior management at the CX level, people who have like decades and decades of experience. And
Right.
I've been lucky enough to work with people across the range. And there's one thing that I've seen in common is that anytime we make the training program, when we make what we want to do action oriented, where we help people change their behavior, we see long term results from that training. So I spent a decade trying to do that. How do we get people to take difficult actions, right? And
Right.
how do we help them continue to take that difficult action without draining their willpower? That's what I did.
Awesome. So we are very clear that your superpower is changing people's behavior. Now, to me, when you say things like that, changing people's behavior, I'm like, no, that's a bit far fetched. How do you actually change that person? Is it more of a manipulation? Like, how does that work? Or do you like it just sounds too much like you got to wave a wand and it works? And I'm like, no, that just doesn't seem right. You have to tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so let me do that with an example. Have you had like food from a cart outside, like takeaway, like hot dogs or
Yeah,
burgers or sandwiches? You
yeah,
have, right?
yeah.
And you eat it with your hand?
Yep, that's
Yes.
right.
Yeah. And after you're done, you're just walking around and you're casually dressed, and you don't mind if it gets a little bit messy, especially stuff like tacos and burgers, and
Right,
you're
right,
cool with
right.
that, right?
That's what's so
Have you also
enjoyable about it, right? It's so
exactly
messy.
right? Have you also eaten in like Michelin star restaurants? Have you
Yes.
also eaten it, right? So do you eat with your hand then?
Oh no, no, no. You got to eat with your
Do
knife
you
and fork with cutlery. You got to be clean. You got to have your napkin on your lap, you know?
right?
Yeah.
Right? Do you dress up?
Yes, you do. I
Right?
definitely have
And right? And that's the big whole part of it, right? You dress up to match the environment.
to.
And what about your tone of voice? Do you speak loudly, garishly, or do you speak in soft tones
No, it'll be
in
in
a place
soft
like that,
tones in that kind of
right?
ambience for sure. Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people, the way we speak also changes, right? We use fancier words, right? We talk about fancier things because we're in a
Oh,
fancier place, right?
right.
So change in behavior, a lot of us think that, and I used to think that at the beginning, like, am I going to manipulate people? But it's not that. Change in behavior is helping people do what they want to do, right? So one of my clients is a fitness expert, and she helps people lose weight while still having carbs and cakes and donuts as a part of their diet,
What? Wait, no,
right?
you have to put me in contact with her because if that's possible, oh my goodness, because I've been told something
I'm
different.
I'm gonna do that, right? So she's that's what she's doing, which means if you are going to continue to have that as a part of a diet, we are trying to put in place actions and habits that are sustainable over the course of their lives,
Wow.
right? So workout and diet, all that becomes sustainable. That means we have to help them change their behavior. We have to make it so that they get up every day and work. And a
Right.
lot of people think people do not work out because it's hard. That's not true.
Wow.
People do not work out because it's boring. It's boring to do 50 sit-ups in a day, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It is. It doesn't motivate you to want to do it.
Exactly. So then we realize the trick here is now these people have paid a lot of money to learn from her, a lot of money to lose that weight and get fitter, and they want to do it, but they aren't able to. So any amount of information and support and none of that is helping. Then we realize we got to make it fun, right?
Mm.
And that's exactly what we did. We came out with leaderboards, badges, fun activities, and a ton of stuff that now people are excited about it. It's not about the setups, it's about the activity that they're doing together, right? Is it
Right.
manipulation? If it's done not in service of somebody else. Yeah, you could manipulate with this, right? You could get people to do. But I have found that if it's not with the right intention, and if it is not an action the person already wants to take, it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to stick in the long run.
Ah, okay. So you have to want to get this particular result in order to keep up with the steps that you need to do.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
And then you mentioned also that it's not manipulation, it's just working around what people want. And the
Mhm.
thing is, what I've come across is people don't always know what they want. So how do you work around that?
So that is an incredible question and not a question a lot of people know how to ask, right? So that's what we try to answer, and this we have faced that in marketing, right? Now,
Right.
let's say one of the things that I offer is social media services, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of people they know what they need from social media. So clients come to me and say, I want to increase my followers, I
Yeah.
want to increase my engagement, I want
Right.
more people,
Mm.
and I specialize in working with service providers. Service providers do not need 10,000 followers to run a successful business. You could run a multi-million dollar business with just a list of 3,000 people, just followers of 3,000 people, if you have the right people following you, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
you don't need that many. So one of the ways that we do that, and that's the awareness we need to bring to them, right? Stop chasing viral trends and
Right.
start creating content that will attract your ideal client who will willingly pay big bucks for your expertise in their business, right? So
Interesting.
we need to change that behavior, and you're absolutely right. And the way we do that is number one, first we do need to give them what they want. So
Mm-hmm.
people have many things that they want. Yeah, they want followers, they want engagement, they want a lot of that. They also want to not be stuck producing content every day and not working on their client, the actual client work, right? So
Right.
we uncover the needs that they do want, right? and
Yeah.
we service those, and we educate them and show them that, yeah, look at this. Isn't this more fun? Do you
Right.
want to really go do the other thing that's not neither profitable nor fun? You really want that? And most clients see that because they know once they're educated,
Yeah.
once they become aware, they realize that no, I never wanted that. In
Right.
the end, what I always wanted was high playing quality clients that are a dream to work with. So then
Oh,
it
wow.
becomes a no-brainer.
Oh, amazing. So people actually realize through this journey what they actually did want and what they don't want, and what they actually wanted wasn't anything that they actually wanted as a result anyway. Right? Okay,
Exactly.
so it actually puts things into place. It clears things up for your clients when they go through this
Hmm.
journey with you.
Hmm.
Okay, amazing. That's pretty cool. And I guess that they can use that experience that they've had with you and implement that with their own clients, right?
Exactly. And that is the social media content framework that I preach. So I have six
Okay.
pillars of content that I recommend, and then I use and I create for my clients. So what a lot of us do is we think we need to establish ourselves as authority. So
Yeah,
there are two types of clients, service providers post. Number one, they teach,
right.
right? To show their expertise. They talk about what they know, they teach people how to do things. And
Yeah,
what does that do? You get a bunch of people in your DMs asking you, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? Right? You showed me the welcome signature. And then you engage with them thinking they're going to turn into paying clients, but they
yeah.
are not your clients. They are DIYers who
Ah,
want to do it themselves. That's why they're asking you questions. Your
I
ideal client
yeah,
will not want to do it themselves. They will ask you, can you
right.
do it for me?
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
One of my clients has actually told me when I tried to explain to her how I do this, she's like, no, 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 I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I have enough going on. Just do it for me. I trust you. However you do it is fine. Just don't tell me how you do it, right? I
Oh
don't
my
want to know how the
goodness.
food is made. I just want to taste the food on my plate,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that's the first mistake we make with our content. We teach
Mm.
DIY. We teach DIY, and then
Mhm.
it reminds me of Phoebe Buffet in Friends. She says, "I don't have any clients. Like, what happened? Like, I taught how to massage yourself at home workshop, and now they are. So I
Oh
don't have
no.
clients anymore, right?"
Oh my
So
goodness,
that's what
yes.
we do. It's fine if you are a course creator, then you should teach. So people get a taste of what it would be like to buy the course from you. But if you're a service provider, you shouldn't teach. There are so many other ways to establish authority by sharing your knowledge. But the way you share your knowledge is not to teach what you do, right?
Mm.
We will circle back to that. But
Yeah.
let me talk about the second type of content service providers make the mistake of sharing. They always share testimony. They say, oh, I worked with this client and she said this. She said this fantastic thing about me, right? What
Okay.
they think is testimonial is social proof. But I do not look at a testimonial and decide to buy from you. I already make an emotional decision to buy from you. And then I look at testimonials sort of a validation for my decision, right?
Ah.
The decision to buy, regardless of what it is, regardless of how much money it is,
Mhm.
it's always, always, always emotional. Talia at Get Uplift, she does a fantastic thing. She has a whole masterclass around that. She says emotion sales. And
Oh,
she's a
awesome.
fantastic CRO who works with huge brands.
Wow. Okay, all right. So you've told us, you've had like a vast experience in learning all of this, and you've done a hell of a lot of research, clearly, because you know your stuff.
Mhm.
But what actually really qualifies you as an expert around this area?
Number one, in my corporate career, I have a proven track record. I have repeatedly created programs that not just improve, but like revolutionize the way things are taught,
Right.
right? For instance, when I was working in a school, they came back to us and told us we have these high school boys. They are vandalizing school property during breaks. They're bullying people in the corridors.
Oh,
So we don't
no.
want them to be doing that. We want them to read books instead,
Yes.
right? And high school boys, like high school bullies, you have to get. It says my mandate is to get them to read books, right? It
Ah,
took us 6 months. The gamification framework but that we implemented within 6 months, they had completely read everything in the library, and the school had to go out and buy more books
wait,
for
hold
high
a
school boys to read.
second. 1 second. How do you turn vandals and bullies into bookworms. How does that happen?
I'm actually going to put that together as a case study because there's so many things. There's no simple answer, right? If it's simple, anybody could do it. So number one, what we did, we started a reading championship,
Okay.
right? So we and then once we did that, then we thought, okay, now people are going to read. They didn't. Then what we did, we categorized books and told them that, hey, if you read this book, you get these many points. If you read this book, you get these many points, right? Because boys then think they have to go read complicated um, classics to score points, and they're never going to do that. And we told them, you don't need to read that. Read Goosebumps, and you'll get 5 points. And Goosebumps is fun. It's scary. And they didn't know books like these existed, right? So once they put that chart up, people started reading. But then we still had like problems because some of them were still not reading because like, no, I don't want to read stuff like these points. It means nothing to me, right? So then what we did, we said we put together attractive prices in the end, and one of the biggest prize that they could get for like a whole ton of points was this football. And I don't know sports, so I don't know what was so special about the football, but apparently it was some fancy football which they recommended, and that was something these kids could never afford to buy on their own. Right? And they know that they could never ask their parents to spend their hard-earned money on something like this, right? And they loved football. So then athletes started reading. Guys who would never read a book started reading because they wanted that football, right? I know it's a really funny story. In the end, the person who ended up getting enough points was a 12-year-old who had no interest in sports. And he was surrounded by these high schoolers who was like, please buy that. We'll do anything for you. Just please get that football. But like, I don't want that. I'm going to buy a bunch of pencils and notebooks and erasers.
Oh my gosh.
So then we let a couple of them pull their money, pull their points and get that football. So they did get rewarded. But there's so many other things as well. We had kids lying that they'd actually read the book where they didn't. So there's so many other systems that we have to implement to actually get that working. But it did work. It took us 6 months. But it did work. These kids read, and once they read Goosebumps, they did start with Goosebumps. But after that, they wanted to read more. They went on to read Jurassic Park because they like dinosaurs, right? And then they went on to read better books. And then kids realized there are so many different kinds of books. There are different genres that they could read at, right? So that sort of expanded. So I've done that. And then when I was working at a retail chain in my country, they had a problem of attrition at 36%, which means every 3 months, the entire employee pool was completely turning over, right?
Oh my God. So they weren't able to retain their staff is what you're saying right now.
Yes, they couldn't. People were leaving. People were quitting. So then they said, we need to fix that because so training in HR generally tends to be hand in hand, right? We looked at why are people leaving? So we spent a month talking to people who left. Right? And we fixed it in 2 poles. Number one, we were hiring the wrong people who never intended to work beyond a month because they just wanted to buy a phone. They wanted to work a month, get paid, buy a phone. Yeah. These are college students who are working part-time.
Right? Yeah.
So then we said, okay, these type of people, then we define their ICA. Who is your ICA? Who are the people that we should be hiring? Who are the people we shouldn't be hiring? So then we established that. And then we looked at how are these new employees onboarded? That's the second reason people were leaving. They didn't feel welcome. Right? They didn't felt like they belong. So then that's the second. And all of this applies to our marketing as well. When you onboard leads or onboard clients.
Yeah.
Then we fixed onboarding with training. We did extensive training for the managers of how to onboard a new employee. And at the end of it, the attrition actually came down to 6%. It's on my resume, and I still have managers who this entire system was implemented nationwide. I got promoted twice, and I got a mid-year raise and a final year raise, and that was a good year for me.
Wow. Do you know what? Thank you so much for giving those 2 success stories that you've had with your clients, like with the kids. I mean, getting kids to do anything, to read books, to eat their vegetables, right? It is a hassle, right? And it is, taking it a day at a time and putting steps in place in making sure they achieve that. And you were able to get them to read books in 6 months. And they were vandals. They were bullies.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
a complete different sides of the game that you're trying to play here, and you actually succeeded. And then also with the company where the staff turnover was so frequent. I mean, I know so many business owners that go through that can't find clients or staff that actually stick, right?
Yep.
And having to retrain them all again and go through that process, it takes so much time and energy.
Yep.
And making sure that you have the staff that actually stick with you and progress with you and your business is so important. Oh my God, I can't stress enough how important that is. So thank you so much for giving those examples. People need to hear this stuff. So is there a principle that you can teach our audience that they can relate to right now and immediately apply?
Okay, so let me teach something that's I think the most value for money piece of content that I talk about. So I said stop teaching how to content, right? So let me show you what to do instead. So I always say this with an example. All of us have these Instagram accounts we follow for recipes, right? We screenshot it and we keep it, right? But if you look at restaurants also share food. They also share how they make food, right? If you go to KFC, they show you how they make their burger. But nobody's going to send a DM to KFC asking us, so how many tomato slices should I put in the burger, right? You're not going to do that. But you might actually reach out to the Instagram page that's sharing recipes. You might ask them, oh, will this work with beef instead of chicken? And I try fish instead of chicken. You would actually do that because they're actually sharing their recipe. So there is a difference between teaching DIY and showing how you do stuff, right? So instead of teaching, what I would do, for instance, let's say you are a copywriter who writes onboarding sequences really well. You write welcome sequences really well, right?
Yeah.
So instead of telling them how to write a welcome sequence, talk about as to establish your authority. Talk about the different kinds of welcome sequences and which sequence is the best fit for whom, right? Talk about the client's problem. What are the problems you would have if your welcome sequence is not effective, and what an effective welcome sequence can do for you, right? And then talk about what are the components of a welcome sequence. You're still not teaching how to do it, right? You're talking about what separates welcome sequence from other kinds of sequences. What is special about it? What are the ingredients it needs to have? And most importantly, tell them how to hire a copywriter, what to check for in a copywriter if they want to hire. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you are essentially training. In this, it comes back to that. You're changing their behavior. They might have some bad practices, and that you might be attracting bad clients that way. But you are teaching them, hire a copywriter who can give you a little bit of strategy as well. Right? Hire a copywriter who can do it end to end, who just doesn't just give you a copy, but also gives you instruction on how to load it up, when to send each email, what is the time gap, right? What are the tagging system? A copywriter who can do all of that for you as well. Right? Wow. So when you teach them, then you get a client who's not going to micromanage you, who knows your process and is going to tell you, I saw that post, that was brilliant, that's exactly what I want. Can you do it for me? That's what you're
doing. Amazing. Okay. All right. So we are coming to the end of this, but before we get to the end, I know our audience are going to want to know, where can people receive additional free support from you? If they want to contact you, if they want to have a conversation with you, how can they reach you?
Okay, so the best place to reach me is I talk about gamification processes on my Instagram at elysian.in. I will give you the link for the show notes, okay? And if you want to talk about social media and how I create content and how do I teach that, you can follow me on LinkedIn. And again, it's Esai Arasi. I will leave the link in the show notes for you to share as well. And I am putting together an onboarding process, which is going to feel like you are on a joyride and every step is going to be fun. It's still VIP. It's in like work in progress, and it's going to be fun. So you when you come on, I don't know which version of the iteration we might be on, but that's something I'm going to be definitely sharing. So when you follow me on any of these accounts, you will see the link to sign up as well.
Oh, awesome. Oh my God, guys, there you have it. Look, if you are trying to get people, trying to find clients through social media, getting yourself out there, your business out there, trying to explain to people what it is that you do and it's not quite working, it's not quite getting you the results that you're looking for, you need to make sure that you do contact this young lady, Esai. She is a social media maven, like I said earlier. If you don't, then oh my God, it could mean that you're going to continue going through that hamster wheel, trying to get those clients and not able to succeed. Why not take a shortcut and actually approach Esai and make sure you get the steps that you know will actually work? Thank you again, Esai, for coming onto my show. It was amazing to have you here. So many golden nuggets there, and I'm sure people can take away everything that you've said and actually implement it in their business. So thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kay. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time and listening to Uncensored Society podcast. All resources mentioned throughout the episode will be added to the show notes, and you'll be able to find them at the bottom as you scroll down. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Thank you once again.